So we're here with William Fee, and he has just finished a sort of a duo recital featuring both voice and flute. William is an accomplished flautist, and I've had the pleasure of having him in my studio as a vocalist for the past 3.5 years about. So, William, how does it feel to be on this side of your recital?
It feels really relieving. It feels like I'm kind of like recovering actually from the whole thing. In
I relate to that, yes.
terms of just the amount of time and work it took to put all of that together, not just the recital, but like the rehearsals and all of the logistics, especially under the circumstances. And I knew like I didn't want to do a just a 30-minute recital. It just didn't feel right for me to like. I mean, I could have done two separate recitals, one voice and one flute, but it didn't feel right for them to be separate, and it just for both of them to be combined and
Right.
just have one final presentation.
I loved that about your program. I loved that. Two things that you love and have worked very hard to accomplish, and featuring them in one recital. Speaking of the logistics, I think you are a PR pro. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you let people know about your recital and what efforts went into that?
Yeah, so I created an event on Facebook way in advance, like back in probably September, I think, because I knew that eventually if I tried to put the event up like in October or early November, it'd just be chaotic and people will probably just get lost in the amount of not only their own work, but just the amount of recitals that are happening around this time.
Right.
And so I set it up pretty early, but in terms of pictures um, and the program and everything, I kind of wanted to wait until the week of, just so it's just so everyone had something to look forward to at the start of that week, and then going into the recital.
I thought that was brilliant because it was sort of like a crescendo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like you started just letting people know so they could mark their calendars. But you also gave us video reminders, updates on your Facebook page. You would say things like 3 weeks, and then as you got closer, you actually reported in about your rehearsals, which was fascinating. You had your mask on. It just makes it very real for us, helps us to get excited about it again. And again, as you mentioned, in this day and time, there's so many things that are calling our attention, not only our own schedules, but those of our friends and colleagues, that to highlight it like that again and again, putting on that personal touch of a video made it very easy to focus on your program and the fact that, we wanted to be there for you. So kudos to you for that. That was just excellent work,
Yeah, it was
as
nice.
all of your work is. So really good. What is the first thing that you remember saying to yourself once you were, I mean, your recital was virtual, so you recorded it in different sections. Let's say, what was the first thing that you remember saying to yourself when you knew the final piece of the puzzle was done?
Do you mean like recording the last piece? Yeah, so when I recorded the last piece, it was the Mozart quartet with three of my string friends, and I just remember we just finished it, and I just like I was like I'm done, and they were all applauding, and it was so much fun.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, it was really relieving, but also I had a lot of video editing to do that night and the next day, so it wasn't completely over, but
Right.
um, it was nice to just have everything ready, and I couldn't wait to show everyone. I'm pretty bad at surprises, so like I I just like that's part of the reason why I did those videos and updates during the week, because I was like I can't wait to show you guys this is what I'm doing. Um, so
That was really neat for us to see you so excited about your program. I just thought that was extraordinary that you shared that with us. And it was so visible that you were that excited about it. And that helps us to be excited about it because we can forget, with all of these choices of things to watch, we can forget how special this is to each individual student and their teachers, you know. Very good. Very good. What is the most did you what would you say is the most important thing you learned about putting this recital together in particular and performing it? Because you're kind of an old pro at performing, we know that. But every one of our performances seems to me teaches us something. Is there anything that comes to mind?
I'd say I learned two really big things when I prepared this recital, and the first one was just like remaining connected and interacting with other people. Even in the logistical aspect of everything, like Candace and I were emailing back and forth all the time. Candace is the person who runs the perf for.
And what a beautiful job they did. They caught you in the perfect moments. Your teacher, Dr. Ada Jones, and I were talking about the perfect moments for, you know, the front view and then the side access to be able to see that. They did such a good job. We're so happy to have that, particularly this semester. Yeah. So go on.
Really, I'm grateful for everything that she did to get that all recorded and all set up for me. It was really great. And then other people, obviously you and Dr. Jones, and just, I mean, even under the circumstances of like working exclusively through Zoom, just making the most of our time. And I feel like this semester, I feel like I've grown the most in this semester, despite like just learning virtually. And yeah, and despite all the craziness of just being in a virtual world with all of my other classes. And then I get to spend more time with my roommates, and they inspire me, so it helped me when I was practicing, and sometimes I would play or sing for them. And yeah, just talking to them about how excited I was for my recital and how excited they were for my recital.
Were there any surprises as you were recording your recital? I know that the time limits were very real because we needed to make sure that no one had an overexposure. We needed to ventilate the hall for the next person coming in. So it was as if you were on stage and, you know, in the moment, didn't have a chance to go back a little bit, right? Were there any aha moments or surprises in the recital itself, the recording of the recital itself?
Not really. I kind of went in there knowing what I would do. It was a little weird though for me to do everything out of program order.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, very good. Because you had to put real thought into that order. It had an arc, and then you had to deal with the time slots the way they were offered to you. So there you go. Excellent, excellent. What about in applied voice? Do you have a biggest aha moment in your lessons? That's just for me because I'm curious.
Just, I feel like we talk a lot about how to balance, like for me specifically, like am I a baritone, am I a tenor, which one am I, and how do I negotiate that? Like earlier on, like in my study, I was more tenor focused and focused on getting that ping, and then a little later working more on like the richness and the just enjoying the lower part of my
Right.
voice, as if I was a baritone. And then this semester just combining those two aspects together and not putting myself into any sort of category, but being able to balance the tenor ping and the richness and fullness of the baritone.
Oh, I love the way you said that. I really love the way you said that. I feel like our singers that come particularly with an intense passion for choral music sometimes create this unnecessary boundary between the high voice, the higher range, and the lower range, and sometimes end up ignoring part of the voice. Maybe that's it. That's just what I'm playing with at the moment. But to be able to embrace the voice as one whole, that where you're always going to look for kind of a warmer sound, but a very specific pointed resonance as well helps us to negotiate through diction, but also allow the sound to project itself into the hall. So wonderful. I love the way that you said that. What are some of your favorite moments here at Texas State in your memory right now?
One of my favorite moments, I guess, freshman year was really good for me because at that point I was still double majoring and fully involved in the studio, and it was just so nice to have like upperclassmen who really helped all of us freshmen, because it was a big studio of freshmen in there. All of us are graduating soon.
Yes.
But yeah, it was really nice to have like people like Susan and Caitlin and Sarah and Kelly, all of those wonderful people, to give advice and help us
Right.
not only through the voice stuff but through like other classes as well, and just being a college student.
It's a community, and we again in this particular semester we begin to understand how important community is to help us, because we have this tendency to compare ourselves to others. And when we can use other people's experiences to make ourselves feel better about our situation, then we grow. And then that first semester sort of has its place in defining only a transition between what we didn't understand as high school students and what we come to know as college students. Yes, I really remember those first semesters with that disparity. We had seniors, we had juniors, we had everything. We had lots of SRTs, and it was a really nice variety of people. Very good. Okay. So do you have any advice in general about prospective students that might be looking to come join us here in either the music school or even just in general at Texas State?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest advice I have is just to talk to people, make friends, and have fun while you're here.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big thing that I really learned here, because I'm a pretty quiet and shy person.
Mm-hmm.
So coming here, I was like, oh, I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to do my thing, get my degree. But then as I went along, I started learning about those things, and it really helped me not only as a musician but also as a person. So.
Right. I have really seen that in action. When you were on the stage, you were tapping into a level of expression that it was head and tails above what was coming before. And you grew every semester. So I was so excited to see it be about what you were feeling and what you understood from the song, as opposed to what you should be doing with your face and your hands, right? Because we start with that if someone's uncomfortable expressing themselves, in an outward way. But you really went to the text, to the center of the feelings that were behind the poetry, and made it your own. And then we got to see you allow us to see your version of that type of feeling. And that was very gratifying to me as a teacher. Well done. Well, William, you walked into Texas State with a skill set that set you up really well. Can you talk to us a little bit about your high school teachers and maybe even your earlier teachers and what they inspired in you? Because you have a discipline when it comes to practicing and getting things learned, and also a real hunger for learning itself that served you so well. And I think it would be really appropriate to highlight the people in your life that sent you to us so well prepared and with such a great attitude. Do you want to talk about them for a little bit?
Yeah, there's so many teachers, and I'm going to try to mention as many of them as I can.
Sure.
Starting from elementary school, I had two wonderful teachers, Miss Clapp and Mr. Johnson, Mr. Johnson was at the recital.
Yes.
And both of them, this might get a little personal, but Around the time when I was in first grade, my father had passed away, and so I
Mhm.
was just going through kind of a rough time then. And the one place that I really found myself to be happier and to enjoy life a little bit more was music in the music classroom.
Right.
And my teachers noticed that I really love singing, and so they just encouraged me and helped me out. And then going into middle school, um, my elementary teacher moved up to the middle school level.
Oh,
He was
neat.
also my middle school choir director. Um, so that was a great experience, and then that was my first experience like in an actual like choir. Um, so that experience was really good for me, and so when I went to high school, I just kept continuing it while also doing band. I just feel like band and choir have always been the two things that just kept me going. And I've known since middle school that I want to do music in some fashion.
Right.
Um, but not just flute, not just singing, but
You're not ever happy with just one thing, are you?
yeah.
I love that about you.
So I had a fantastic middle school band director. She really pushed me to be the best musician I could be, and her and my middle school choir director, Mr. Johnson, Miss Brown and Mr. Johnson, they kind of team tackled me, and
Team tackle, I love it.
yeah. And then same thing happened when I was in high school. My band directors, Miss Smith and Mr. Clift, and then my two choir directors, Mr. Plata and Mr. Roca, who all of them are actually at the recital. Um,
I remember meeting
yeah,
them, yeah.
yeah, they all, I guess, four of them helped me become
Who you
really
are.
hardworking and helped push me to be the best musician I could be. And then also I had some private instruction from my assistant choir director, and eventually I had another voice teacher named Mr. Coffee, who was really great. I had him my senior year, and also Miss Land, who's actually good friends with Dr. Martin.
Oh, neat.
So yeah, that's part of the reason why I came to Texas State actually is because of her, because she said that Dr. Martin is there and Texas State has a great program.
Well, thank you to her. Send her my big thank you.
And so was Mr. Johnson. He was a Texas State alum. And my
Wow, that's
elementary
right.
teacher was a Texas State alum. My high school band director was a Texas State alum. It just felt like
Yay!
everything kind of led to
Yeah,
Texas State in some
yeah.
way.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well, how about a little shout out to Dr. Ada Jones? Because this recital was a lot more than just a voice recital, wasn't it?
Yep.
And your collaborative pianist. So, how about a little bit of tell us about your work with Dr. Jones and also a little bit about Dr. Bartz? Because I found the collaborative work, you guys definitely showed that you'd been working a long time together. That was very, very evident to me.
Yeah, so I'll start with Dr. Bartz first. With him, I he's been the pianist for the Flute Studio for a long time, and so I worked with him since my freshman year. And it's kind of weird. Sometimes I feel like we don't even have to say anything to each other.
Oh, man. I know what you mean, and boy, is that a gift, huh? Yes, I'm sure that that is the case. Wow. That's the benefit of working with one very gifted collaborative pianist for a while. Lots of times we just throw stuff together, and that's wonderful too that we can do that. But man, when you have a relationship where you don't have to define every nuance, that the person just gets you, listen, that's something to be really appreciated. Wonderful.
Yes, and he was really generous with his rehearsals. I mean, like we've been rehearsing since probably late September,
Wow.
which is like what, a month and a half in advance.
Right.
And he had so many recitals to play this semester, and
Right.
yet he still offered to do
I
that
can
with me.
imagine that it was as much a pleasure for him as it was for you. And that's when you get generosity, you know? Absolutely. Good.
And then with Dr. Jones, I mean, there's just so many great things. The discipline I get a lot from her because she pushes all of her students a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it comes to things like knowing the piece, in terms of like analyzing the piece harmonically or things like that, theory-wise and history-wise as well. Just knowing the context of when the pieces were created, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. She's so proud of you. Yeah. We were both extremely proud. Very good. And then for me, one last thing is tell us about your near future plans.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to pursue orchestral conducting in
Wonderful.
my future, and I'm hoping to go to grad school straight out of undergraduate. So I graduate this spring, so I'm hoping to get into the orchestral conducting program somewhere for the fall.
Very good.
And yeah, I always wondered, like, what am I going to do? Because there's no way I can give up singing, or the singing aspect of things, or the instrumental aspect of things.
Right.
So, like, how can I combine these two things
Yeah.
into a career that I would find meaningful?
Right.
And I think orchestral is the way to go.
I love that, because to have the person behind the baton, to have actual experience as a singer, and not just a little bit, an actual investment of time, would be very exciting to sing with a conductor who had experience as both a real singer and a flautist. That's fantastic. What about in 10 years? What do you see yourself doing in 10 years?
A dream job for me would be collegiate orchestral conducting, like teaching in academia.
Wonderful.
Because like my undergrad is going to be in music ed, and
Mm-hmm.
I still have a passion for teaching. I love teaching. I love
I'm
teaching,
glad.
I love singing. I love being involved in instrumental music. I think that's just the perfect way to combine all three of those things.
Yeah, very good. Is there anything, William, that I haven't asked you that you would like to tell us or discuss?
Not really, but I am happy with the way the recital was received. I've been receiving a lot of kind words from a lot of people, and a lot of people enjoyed it, and so I'm really happy that that's the way it came out. And I initially it felt like a project all together, but in the end it kind of came out as my, I don't want to say, I guess I could say like masterpiece for me anyways. I know it's not
Mhm.
like a masterpiece in like maybe in other people's eyes, but it just
I would disagree. I think that you had such an investment in every aspect of this, and you did it with such joy and dedication for an undergraduate student. It's supposed to be your masterpiece. It doesn't mean that it'll be the last one, but to be able to have it on video and to be able to look back at this and to relive the moments and to compare it with the growth that you're going to have every minute of your life from now on. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I absolutely support calling it a masterpiece, because it was due to the same kind of investment of time and talent and passion that any artist puts into a work. It's just that it's not a traditional masterpiece, is it?
And one more person I wanted to really thank was Dr.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was a beautiful tribute. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I just wanted to say, like, his class in the spring was really transformative, not only for me, but for the other students in the class.
Mm-hmm.
And
Can you tell us a little bit about the class?
yeah, so it's, a lot of people have asked me this, and it's hard to describe because we do so many things in there, and it's all about creativity, finding yourself as a musician, as a person, and yeah, I can't really say much more.
It's tough, isn't it?
It's hard to describe, and I feel like that feeling of like being unable to describe it, I tried my best to translate that into my playing and singing, like just
I think he'd
being
be
able to
very
impact
pleased to
people.
hear you say that. Yeah, the creative spirit is a difficult one to pin down in academia, and to put in, if you, academia can feel like a bunch of boxes that you sort of put together, and the creative spirit doesn't have edges or boundaries, and it can sometimes feel, because we want to quantify it into grades and progress, like it's not welcome. But to have a class that emphasizes that amorphous, that ability, that potential, that uniqueness that each individual can bring to it is a wonderful thing. So that's a lovely tribute. I really, it was a surprise to me that you did the song at the end in tribute, and it was a lovely moment. Dr. Martin almost let the cat out of the bag, because after you guys recorded, he came by my office and just briefly walked by and said, "Yes, I was just with William." And I'm like, "Why were you with William?" But I let it go. And then I knew once I saw that he was playing for you for that piece. So, and I'm sure that he was glad to be a part of your success as well. William, it was such a treat to have you in the studio, and I wish you all the success and joy in what you've put together for yourself in these coming years. I insist that you stay in touch and let me know what's going on with you. And we just want to hear about everything that is coming up for you. And yeah, keep singing. I don't think I have to urge you to do that. And keep playing and keep spreading, your eagerness and your passion to others, as I know you will, because it's going to set some people on fire. I can guarantee you. Absolutely. Thank you for spending this time with me.